Much discussion has taken place after the first round of the college football playoffs about G5 schools making it and being involved in non-competitive games. We're going to give you a take on why the problem is, but appreciate you joining us. Hit that subscribe button. Keep this podcast free. We appreciate you joining us. Like us, share us, so that you don't miss any of our football content. A reminder to thanks to our folks at Quantum Energy Squares. The videos supported by it. We appreciate it. Get 25% off using our link, which is pinned below. Really good formulated energy bars. Check them out. I use them. I love them. We appreciate you patronizing our sponsors. Well, we saw two playoff games that were blowouts. James Madison and Tulane against Oregon and Ole Miss, respectively. It was expected, and yet most people will determine that the blowout is the reason why they shouldn't be in there. Not necessarily. The reason they shouldn't be there is because the teams in the G5 level has not shown or earned the right to be in there. One of the problems with the committee, and there are many, is that they don't evaluate enough teams. Well, they sit there and look at 25. You got to look at 100 teams. You got to study them. You got to have a bigger group to analyze. Because if you don't study the opponents of all the teams that are ranked, how do you know how good they are? For example, people will say you only need to look at 25 teams. How do you pick the 25 teams? You need to look at more than that to determine the 25. It's like, as a scout running drafts, and people say, this guy's a first rounder. He's a top 10 player. How the hell do you know he's a top 10 player unless you look at all of them and grade them and then stack them? You make assumptions because you read what you read on the internet, what you hear. It's not how it's done. And the problem is that Tulane and James Madison were not even close to being the 20th and 24th best teams in the country. Not even close. But we have a rule that says the top 5 conference champions get in. Well, the ACC, their issue was they put a bad tiebreaker in their system and got Duke to win it. And, of course, they're not going to be ranked. Duke wasn't that good as well. But there are a number of teams that are better than Tulane and James Madison. We know that. And who's to say that Ole Miss wouldn't have blown out Notre Dame or Vanderbilt or Texas or Oregon would have blown out BYU? We don't know that. Ohio State blew out Tennessee last year. But the point is, you not just go back and look at the result. That's what people look at. But look at the fact that if there is a blowout of one of those ranked teams, well, so be it. They've earned their right to be there. And it happens. But when you put teams that are not on the same level, don't run their programs the same way, it's really not the right thing to do. I get it. It's all about money. But there's a better way to go about this process. There should be a G6 playoffs. There should be. There should be a separation. And there should be some money funneled from TV and the big boys to allow that to happen. And if you want to have the first week of the season, the Power 2, as I call them, and the next 2, play teams from the G6, great. You want to have them from Division I AA? Great. But to put them in a position to where they can get a spot and not deserving it doesn't make any sense. It's like it's college football socialism. You haven't earned anything, but just go ahead and give a handout. Let me say this. I am open to a G6 team making the playoffs if they're good enough. Let's say you have a team in the G6 that plays 3 or 4 teams that are really good, and they go unbeaten or go 11-1. If they are one of the top 10 or 12 best teams in the country, put them in. They've earned it. They deserve it. I also think you could have a situation where you have these G6 playoffs, and if you have a team that comes out of it, I know it's a lot of games, that has kind of proven themselves, and you can continue to evaluate them through the G6 playoffs, maybe you give them consideration. But you have to rank them properly. We're not getting the best 12, or as we go to 16, the best 16 teams. We're putting teams based on, well, we got to have this amount or that amount. The Big Ten consideration, for example, is 24 teams and guaranteeing 2 from each of the big conferences. You can't guarantee spots. What if you don't deserve it? What if the ACC doesn't have a team that's worthy, or the Big 12? I mean, it's unlikely that that's going to happen in the Big 10 or the SEC because the conferences are so big. But in theory, you could. What are you going to do? Just put them in anyway? No. You got to do a better job if you're going to have the conference championship games, determining your 2 best teams in the conference based upon how they're ranked. Put them in the playoffs, because you don't have divisions. If you're not going to have divisions, you don't know who the 2 best teams are because they don't play equal schedules. So take the 2 highest ranked teams, put them in, and win the conference championship. They get in, and the other is a candidate for an at-large spot, and we'll see how it goes. But put the best teams in. I think we all want that. I also think that when you go in and you put teams that are deserving and there's a blowout, it's disappointing to see a game like that in the playoffs, but at least you've done all you can do. If you put a team that you know is going to be a blowout going in and you get it, it goes down a lot harder. It just gets stuck there. I will say this. It's going to get tougher and tougher for the G6 teams to be competitive, and here's why. The NIL era, people think it's going to even things out. It does not even things out for the group of 6, and here's why. The big-time programs can put together the financial infrastructure to support an NIL program that's going to separate even more from the G6. And here's what's going to happen. I will use an example of Boise State in their great run with their success, but there have been others. 2-star players, maybe occasional 3-star. You develop them. They play in your system for 4 or 5 years. You got a really good team that stays together for 4 or 5 years. Sometimes that can overcome more talent because you've got more balance and consistency. We see that in college basketball when we see, the Butlers make the Final Four and George Mason. But that's not going to happen anymore, and here's why. When you have success and you have players that prove to be successful at the G6 level, they're going to be plucked by the Power 2 or the next 2. And you're going to see that become further and further apart. I do think this is going to lead to where we got to look hard at separating them. I get it. You got programs that want to be part of the big boys, but I think you need to have a standard that's a little bit tougher and certainly allow a G6 program that perhaps does a great job of building a program, say with a financial sugar daddy. Potentially they could move up in a big-time conference and compete. I think you should always have the ability to have access to do that. But to just give it as a handout, it's not going to work. Hey, happy holidays, everyone. We appreciate you joining us. Hit the subscribe button. Help us grow. Keep the podcast free. And share and like with your friends. Appreciate you joining us. Talk to you again next time, everybody.